You're watching a Zero Dark Network production. All right, good morning. Welcome to Zero Dark Friday Live on Zoom, and welcome. This is our 6th edition, I believe, and we're going to continue. Thank you. We had no glitches this morning, so right on time. And you can get this link at Zero Dark Network, and it's the Zoom link. There's no password. The whole format is designed for collaboration, dialogue, although I do archive these for further comment for those that watch later. So if you're tuning in, thank you for watching. And again, we're going to open up with prayer and then kind of kick this episode off. I have a lot to go over, do some practical today, and we're going to talk about, I guess, resume the Free of Me video sequence we've been going through as part of just a dialogue on change. And that's what this platform is designed for, is detecting changes that might be needed in our trajectory of personal, business, or network building, living life, basically. And so this morning it was really tough. I was starting to get up around 1 o'clock looking up. I thought I had overslept, but I'm thankfully I didn't. Energized, recharged, and ready for this Friday morning. And let's see what's going on. There's a lot going on. It's 2024. It's a new year, so it's a fresh new year. People are setting up their goals, their plans, and their vision for their life, and detecting these changes now. And I always use this word detecting, but basically, before you can change, before you realize that, there's certain things you want to do, then you kind of have to have this ongoing, childlike, inquiry, if you will, discovery, which comes from just a commitment to learning, right? And seeing what others have written about, others have done, in this time of information overload. There's so much coming at you, but the main objective is to be, I think what Bruce Lee said, be watered, my friend. So listen, watch, hear, observe, and then figure out, like, what is it that you want to do in your life that's going to make for your best life, right? Your perfect day, if you will. And today is the day that we have. Yesterday's gone, and we want to make the best of today. So with that, I'm going to open up in prayer. Thank you for allowing me to do this in prayer. Prayer does work, and it also clears the mind and helps to have a bad hair day today, it looks like. But anyway, thank you. Heavenly Father, Lord, just come before you this Friday, January 5th, to talk with my audience of one or audience of many. Lord, just show us the things that we can learn from each other, Lord, as you're showing me this week, this from last week, different things, Lord, that may be relevant to someone that's watching. It helps me, Lord, to stay on tune and on track with consistency. And I thank you, Lord, for the Zero Dark Network emerging group fathers. We've had conversations with early adopters, those that are realizing, yeah, I do need to make a change. Maybe this 3 a.m. wake up may be something that I need to implement. There are people that do get up early, some that get up late, but they realize, hey, yeah, I need to increase my productivity and make improvements in several different areas of our lives. So, Lord, just lift up this Friday. Give me the words to say. Give me the examples to show. And make it entertaining, make it fun, make it thought-provoking. And Lord, as we archive these contents, we just pray that it reaches people in magnificent ways. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. So I guess a little bit about my home office here. I've done video recordings in the past, started doing more live productions and content creation as a marketer and as a thought leader, and started to improve. One of my good friends, Asa, that I told you about, he and I have been doing this mastermind group on Tuesdays, and he observed some of my videos. He's a audio video professional, and he made some comments about my backdrop. So I took some time to organize the books and kind of set up a studio, if you will. Um, and one of my taglines is on mission, so I wanted to make sure that was engraved into the brand. So I don't know. Last year I bought this sign, and my idea for the sign was to use different messages in the back. But I said, well, you know what? I like this on mission, so I'll make that more of a statutory, stationary thing. And then my book here is accumulation of trainings that I've had this last year and archiving the homework, if you will, and the assignments and the mantras and the vision casting and all that for reference later in the year. And so I'll keep adding to those binders. And of course, the memorabilia. I got my Marine cover that I wore when I was in the Marine Corps from 88 to 92. And my shofar, which has a story of its own. I'm actually going to write a book called The Mighty Shofar about the history of the shofar and how it was used in biblical times and ancient times and also in current times. And so this one was purchased for me about 3 years ago by a Marine vet friend of mine who went to Israel, and he carried it with him for 17 days while he was touring all the different sites in Israel. And before I started blowing it, I took some lessons and had an opportunity to learn the traditional blows and also have an opportunity to blow publicly, which I never had plans to do. And then I like to collect little artifacts. Like I bought a military replica World War II helmet, which was also worn in Vietnam. You can actually get this on Amazon. They're brand new, built to mil spec. Interestingly, they were not designed to stop bullets, but and they did have some problems with the chin straps, because people would wear them. The soldiers did, and with a concussion bomb, they would take their head off if they had the strap on. So that's why you see in the movies with the strap down. You never realize these things until you learn about them. And then a while back, I bought my daughter this little chicken hat. She was in her chicken mode for a while. She had some jewelry and stuff. I thought she would like this hat, but no, she didn't like it. I said, well, I'll keep it. Ideas hatched here, kind of the concept. But I do like to read books, and especially here recently, this last year, I made a commitment to read 30 minutes a day. Just to, realizing that little daily habits like that could make an amazing impact over time. And so what I'm seeing and reading about is just these micro changes that you can make in your daily habits can add up. And I found that I work best in 15-minute, 30-minute, 1 hour, 2 hour max increments, right? Because, bandwidth. And so what I've done is structured my day based on the book, The One Thing by Gary Keller. So there's a difference between a billionaire schedule and 100,000 a year schedule. And it's really not more hours. It's how you structure your day. I mean, we're all given 24 hours. And I think I've talked about these in some of our videos. So the whole purpose of this Zero Dart mindset group. And again, there's very few people that are doing this, and I know why. It is a challenge, but it's like going to the gym. It's like maybe running a marathon. It's like doing a diet, or you're anything that's going to cause exertion, if you will, is going to have a result, right? A positive result, hopefully. So with this change, I get all kinds of feedback from people like, you're going to mess up your circadian rhythm. You're going to do this and do that, and that's crazy, but it's not so crazy if you think about it, right? So it's not for everybody. In fact, when we have our meetings, I said it's probably one in 10,000 people that will resonate with something like this. And if they do their due diligence and they think about it, and then of course it's flexible. I tell people, I say, look, it's not for everybody. I mean, for me personally, I decided to do this 6 days a week, so I set my clock now to 2:30 instead of 2:45, and I'll be updating my blog that started it all. So you can go to my website, Team Marketing Dynamics. .com and go to blog and search Zero Dark or 0245, and you'll find my blog that I've been updating about this journey. But for some, like I said, it's like, you know what, just maybe once a month, once a week, you decide, hey, I want to get up early and just see if you like it, or make a commitment to do it and just do it in increments, right? So let's say you're getting up at 6. Well, start dialing the clock back to 5:45, 5:30. And I had originally planned to make this change this year in the increments. And I was going to take about 6 weeks to do it. And I wound up doing it in 2 weeks, right? Yeah. So at first it was shaky because the first time I did, I was really zapped the next day. And it was just a 15-minute increment because I was getting it before, but it did make a difference. And so now I just found that 2:30 is ideal for me. I got up at 2:15 for this because I wanted to get ahead of any delays, because it seems like the last couple of episodes I was running into glitches, right? So what I'm going to do today is I do have a practical that I want to show. I'm going to do a lot of share screening and welcome your feedback. Welcome that you would share this with other folks that you think might benefit from it. I did do a test ad here in my zip code to see if there's other business owners or corporate, or career or employees even that are looking at maybe starting a business or improving their own level of performance in health, wealth, love, and happiness. Those are the 4 key areas that I just keep zeroing in on because of the training I took with Ty Lopez, and there's others that have 7 key areas and more key areas. And I was like, I just want to keep it, simple, because in each one of those areas, there's all kinds of levels of development and checklists and things to do, right? So, health, wealth, love, and happiness in all 4 of those areas were kind of counterbalancing. So if you're focusing on your health only, then your wealth's going to suffer, or your love's going to suffer, or your happiness is going to suffer, although some of it dovetails, right? So you might work out hard and you'll be happier, but you may suffer one area. So you got to kind of balance, like, what, I've done enough of this, I need to move on to the wealth side or the love side, being intentional with your relationships with your loved ones, and of course happiness, being enjoying the life while you're doing the work, right? So let's do the share screen here. Going to share sound, and we're going to share the screen, which is the one I'm on. All right, so here's my screen. So what I wanted to do is go over a pre-launch. So we're going to go over the Zero Dark Network again, and we're going to go back to the archives. But I really wanted to talk about the link to the Friday. So if you go to zerodarknetwork.com, there's a way to get in touch with me directly at the website or by email. And if you're on your smartphone, you can do a call now feature, or I'm not sure if it works on your PC or not, but that's one thing you can do. I do have our commercial on the website now. Still thinking about the verbiage on it, but right now it's more of a symbolic video montage. This video to 2:30 a.m. My friend also watched it. That's what got us committed to changing our wake up to 2:30. It's a very inspirational video. It's on the homepage. But on the Friday live, okay, we do have our mastermind group on Tuesday. And so that's more by invitation. And we've got some folks that are thinking about joining us more regularly. In fact, we had a lady, Karen Blakeman, come this Tuesday. Her mission is debt reduction. Helping people to get out of debt. And she's got a really cool software technology called MoneyMax. And so she came to talk about that. And she came from Sugar Land, single lady, basically. And I admired her courage to come out that late or early in the morning to come talk with us. And so she's put herself with me and our group in a different category. She's that committed to her mission. That really is a sign of tenacity, focus, determination, and seriousness about her mission. So we're going to integrate with her. At least I'm going to do a video interview with her. I'll probably post this on the website here to talk about what she does with her groups and her trainings and so forth. It's just amazing what this software does to eliminate debt. You're talking about debt that would normally take 24 years to pay. You can do it in less than 5. You can be debt free, and then start plowing that money into investments, and they help guide you with some of that as well. On the Saturday Change Me, we're limited it to 25, and so we do have some folks, and that's more come and go. Like it's not something you have to come to every Saturday, like the mastermind group, but it's something that you can integrate. And the whole focus is that, we can't change everybody. We can only change ourselves. And then by changing ourselves, we are now in a better position to help lead others to change, if you will. We're going to do the Free of Me series. I think we have another episode to do. So I'll do that here in a few. Make sure I'm recording. Am I recording? Yeah. I am recording. Let me make sure I'm recording because I hate when yeah, I am recording. So the Friday, we have a little brief on our first Change Me Saturday group. This kind of a fun video we did. But here at the launch Facebook Live, there's the Zoom link. So I have this recurring now through the end of the year. So you just go to Zoom if you have a Zoom account, and the number is 851-0244-1517, or this link, just cut and paste, and then I'll admit you into the group. And then ideally, if you're going to be a regular attendee, come with some ideas, some things you can share, books you're reading, websites you visited that are useful for self-development, business. We'll be talking a lot this year, hopefully, about marketing, artificial intelligence. And so I'm really jumping into that sector to discover all the possibilities to help automate and teach business owners how to use these really cool tools that are in our time. There's some other motivational videos, all that kind of thing. So as I think through what we're going to add on here, you'll just have to visit the website. So we do have the Friday Live. We do have the mastermind group brief, Change Me Saturday, books that I'm reading or recommending, and then training resources, right? So I'll make my little notes here. Oh, so I found these really cool pins. Let's go ahead and, well, I'll just do the pin later. But this is a Sharpie fine point, and I had wanted the erasables because I have a plastic to-do list thing that I can erase and change, but these are permanent. But these will make for good notes, and I bought a whole box of them on Amazon, I think for like $8. And so these will be handy this year for note taking. And again, I had made mention of my cool little journal that my daughter bought for me for Christmas that allows with old school paper and a really nice texture journal. And this I'm reserving for special ideas, special quotes, and Bible verses and stuff that I want to keep and archive and reference later. So we're going to go to the Change Me, Free of Me video in the series we've been working on. This is right off of Right Now Media. And it's a resource that I got with my church. And we're going to go ahead and share this next training. And I'll find some others that might be more helpful, but I'm committed to this one mainly for the Change Me group. And we show these at our venues when we have an opportunity. And this one is going to be 13 minutes long. It's called When You Make Family About You. And again, the challenge is a lot of times we make everything about ourselves, when in reality we need to zero in on what God wants us to do and then let it be more about Him. And so let's see what this one has to say. And I haven't seen these myself, so as we're watching them, even I take it from a male's perspective, and of course I have my wife and girls, so I'm also observing these from potentially their perspective as well, and then how can I align with their concerns and their interest, and of course in the love and happiness sector, that's some of these videos can apply in that sector as well.
Hi, welcome back to Free of Me. In the last session, we talked about what happens when we make God about us. We looked at 4 different types of false gods: the self-help God, the self-serving God, the self-exalting God, and the self-image God. and we discussed how to identify them. We also learned about the importance of shifting our gaze off of ourselves and back onto the one true God. With a right view of God and of ourselves, we can fully worship Him instead of turning our gaze inward. But if you're anything like me, self-focus doesn't stop at our relationship with God. It trickles down into our relationships too. In this session, we're going to look at what happens when we make our family about us. But first, let's listen to Melanie's brave story.
I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. My dad, he was the associate minister at the church that I grew up. My uncle was the actual pastor. So when I first went off to college, I ended up kind of doing things my own way, and I ended up getting pregnant. And I know that was, really shameful, for my dad in the position that he's in. That just kind of made me feel like I was a failure because I didn't do it right. And I ended up meeting another guy, and we ended up having my second daughter, and then we ended up getting married. I figured that would just help make everything right and not put too much shame on my family. Things really started to go south pretty quick. It got abusive, and with abuse, it starts off kind of verbally and emotionally, and then it escalates into physical. That's when I figured that going to church would help. Going to Bible study would help. Me leading a Bible study group would help. Getting him into a men's group at church would help. Of course, I'm trying to put on this facade that, we're this family, we're doing good. And so I was trying to kind of force him into getting into ministries as well, because him kind of encamping himself with more Christian men, and, maybe finding a mentor, I thought that would help. I just kind of got into that mode of when we're out in public, this is, how we're going to act, this is how we're going to behave. But however it is at home, it's just how it is at home. It made me sick because I just got tired of acting like I was so happy and everything was okay. I could say, everything was fine, but my face would tell a totally different story. And then eventually, I had to tell somebody. And one day I was kind of chit-chatting with a couple of my friends. So I kind of gave them a little bit of the details. And so they just kind of went into this big shock, like, what is going on? Like, nobody knew. I finally decided that I needed to leave. And that was something that I struggled with because I was still wanting to reconcile this marriage and keep it together. For me, I think I'm still feeling the effects of it. Because even now, just kind of getting out of it physically, I still find myself kind of, I'm okay. But, sometimes I'm still crying inside. God started to restore a right view of myself, basically letting me know that I can depend on Him, like He's the only one. He's my backbone. He's my strength. And if I lay it all down for Him and I just leave it there at the altar, let Him take care of it, and just constantly remind myself that I depend on Him. I don't depend on Melanie. I depend on God. And that's the perspective that I have to maintain daily.
I am so grateful to Melanie for sharing her story. When our lives don't conform to the perfect Christian image, it's tempting to keep parts of ourselves hidden. This concept is called image management, and it's exactly how it sounds when you manage how people see you. We are most familiar with this practice on social media, where people curate their Instagram photos to reflect a very particular and unrealistic appearance. However, there is another form of image management that we often overlook, and that is when image management intersects with our relationships. What I mean by that is when we treat our family as a part of our image that needs to be managed. For most of us, this starts in our teen years when we are hyper vigilant about our reputation. Most of us outgrow this phase of our teens, but we don't outgrow the tendency entirely. Instead, it becomes heightened in marriage and parenting, when we treat our spouses and our kids as extensions of our own image. When we do this, when we make our family about us, we can expect 4 consequences. The first is hiding. As Melanie's story shows us, maintaining the perfect image demands a certain level of hiding because there's only one who is perfect, and it is not us. This means that if you ever encounter a person who seems to have the perfect life, it simply means there is something you are not seeing. So long as we live in a broken world, our lives will be touched by brokenness. There is no perfection this side of heaven. So when a person appears especially perfect, it most likely means they are just a really good hider. Before I move on to the next point, I do want to mention that this temptation to hide is what makes Melanie's testimony so important. When you are caught in an abusive relationship, hiding almost becomes a survival mechanism. But there is power in stepping into the light. God created you for freedom and flourishing, which is why He despises abuse. If you are in an abusive relationship, I would encourage you to follow Melanie's example and tell someone who is trustworthy and safe. Please seek help because God loves you and created you for so much more. The second consequence of image management is pressure. Maybe you have seen the parent screaming at their child on the sidelines or pressuring their child to perform or to look a certain way. Maybe you have been that parent. Maybe you have been that child. But this dynamic is extremely toxic for our relationships. When our spouse or our kids become extensions of us, we saddle them with our insecurities in addition to their own. We force them to bear a burden that was never theirs to carry. The third consequence of making our family about us is guilt. For many of us, the guilt of parenting sets in before our children are even born. As soon as the pregnancy test comes back positive, we discover this list of things we should be doing to care for our future offspring. No caffeine, no soft cheeses, no deli meats, no sushi, no wine. And then there are all the choices, each one presenting itself kind of like this pass-fail test. Disposable diapers or cloth diapers, store-bought baby food or homemade baby food, attachment parenting or sleep training, and the list goes on and on. And we make our choices, and for a moment, we feel good about them. Until the day when we are confronted with a parent who made different choices and who also went above and beyond, who not only makes their homemade baby food, but breastfeeds for 2 years instead of 1, the parent who never seems to need any time away from her kids and never allows her kid any screen time. And in that moment, instead of thinking, good for her, we are more likely to think one of two things. 1, why is she making it so hard for the rest of us? Or 2, I need to do better. Whenever we glimpse a parent who has chosen a different style than ours, it instantly invites comparison. And when we treat our kids like they are a reflection of us, they get wrapped up into all of that constant need to be enough. The last consequence of making your family about you is surprisingly self-neglect. This one is a little bit counterintuitive, but there is a brand of parenting that encourages parents to be martyrs, as if the best moms would literally do anything for their children. I want you to know that self-neglect is not the same as godly sacrifice. Sometimes God does call us to sacrifice for our family, and that kind of sacrifice does echo the perfect sacrifice of our Heavenly Father. But sometimes our sacrifice is about us. Maybe it's the need to be seen a certain way or the desire to prove you can do it all. But the sacrifice is ultimately in service to you and your image. As we close this session on the mirror of family, I want to make a distinction that can help us break free from the temptation of image management. And that is by understanding the difference between humility and shame. In all of the consequences that I just listed, the common thread that was running throughout them is shame. Shame leads us to hide. Shame creates pressure. Shame heaps on the guilt. And shame cracks the whip like a slave driver, leading us to sacrifice ourselves on the altar of image. Now, you might not think of shame as having a self-centered focus because it is not necessarily selfish. Shame can look very selfless. What shame does is make everything a referendum on your identity and your worth. That's what makes shame so powerful and how it influences the way we relate to the people closest to us. But Jesus put an end to this. Hebrews 12:2 says, Jesus endured the cross while scorning its shame, meaning his sacrifice was a direct affront to shame. Rather than be motivated by shame, Jesus overcame shame. Humility, on the other hand, is different than shame. Humility is a smallness we freely choose. It is a glad lowering. It is possessing an identity firmly planted in Christ, which means it has nothing to prove. That's why humility is also incredibly light. Shame crushes, but humility casts off the burden of striving. Humility is what we see as Jesus carries his cross. It is a humiliation he had the power to avoid, but instead received as an act of love. Humility, not shame, is one of the ways we can overcome image management and its toxic fruits. Rather than engage with people from a place of shame, we can love them from a place of humility. Humility is the surprising answer to image management, the hammer that shatters the mirror of family. Shame clouds our vision with self, but humility allows us to truly see and to truly love God and others.
All right, that was a cool little video. I've got two girls, one's 23 and one's 20, and mom is always mindful of their needs and thinking about them as a mom. And of course, I'm the dad. And as we're watching that, I kind of was reflecting on the movie Heartbreak Ridge, where Gunny Highway is reading to learn more about women and the way they think. And so one of the things I've had to learn to do is to be more sensitive to their hearts and their needs, my girls, that is, but also being mindful as a protector. We have a thing that we do in our family, kind of like a buddy check, to make sure that they're not being abused. My oldest has a boyfriend and my youngest has a boyfriend, and we've been very mindful, of just how people are, right? So we just want them to know that they are free to reach out to us, right? And of course, Dad's a Marine, so definitely until they're married, they're still mine, right? So yeah, so interestingly, things haven't changed. I just picked up this book. It was referenced in Michael Gerber's book E-Myth, called Man's Search for Himself. I'm not sure if you can see that. Yeah, Man's Search. Now, this was published in 1953, and this was during the era of World War II, and just after the Hiroshima bombing and Nagasaki. Of course, my wife and I just watched Oppenheimer this week, and so that became more realistic. But the whole book, mainly not finishing the book, was really about the anxiety and loneliness that they had back then. You imagine the turmoil of war and Hitler, and the psyche of people back then was holding up their emotions and having an internal gyroscope, you would say, that was it created an environment of hollowness, if you will, where people felt isolated and peer pressure, and having the right house, having the right wife, all these kinds of things, right? So it's really important, I think, in these times, even today. In fact, I'm going to switch over to this interview that I did with Wally Wood, who's been documenting the changes that were foretold going back generations, if you will, but here more recently in the news. So there is a lot of anxiety, a lot of concern that people might have. I don't know if we talked about this in the last video about the movie Leave the World Behind. It's got a lot of chatter, and then of course there's another movie called Civil War that's coming out. So times haven't changed. There's nothing new under the sun. And again, what I'm seeking to do as a thought leader, as a marketing person, as a dad, a layman, is to kind of navigate, the waters ahead. There's been a lot of stresses, with just politics and the border invasion, I call it, just the agendas that are placed on us that we're having to react to, right? But also creating an environment, I call it quiet in the eye of the storm. My wife and I have been together 43 years, and we've seen a lot, come and go. It's no longer Little House on the Prairie, but Little Family on the Freeway, which you've heard me mention before. And so as we've learned to get it together, we strive to create, a safe environment, in our home. Not to say that we were the perfect parents. We were succumbing to some of the ideologies when they were talking about Pampers and stuff. My wife was real mindful of what, to have. Do we, breastfeed? Do we, have a babysitter? All these things that you have to, you want to think about as good parents, and not repeating maybe the same mistakes our parents made, as good as our parents were, there are some things that maybe they didn't pay attention to. They probably should have, right? Would have been better people. But what I've observed too, if you are a parent, I think you become a better leader, if you're really serious about, being a good parent, right? And people are people, right? And what we see is, people are broken, different issues from bad parenting to neglect to just personal decisions that got you in trouble, all these different things that can happen. And but thankfully, my wife and I, it's like, well, we learned a lot from our own mistakes, so we were able to help our children hopefully avoid some of them, right? So we go back to share, and I wanted to make this one a practical. I was like, I got a project I got to get done, so I said, well, shoot, let me integrate my my work into this episode, and I'll kill two birds with one stone, as they say. So we go back to share screen. And so yesterday, I had an opportunity to interview one of my clients, Mr. Wally Wood. In fact, let me go back to that page. Wally Wood has been a friend of mine for 15 years, 20 years. Amazing man. He's got a ministry called Revelation File. He's got 5 websites that are geared towards documenting the times we're living. And so when he was 12 years old, he's 72 now, he made it his mission to document based on Revelation 13, the technological advances that would ultimately lead to a one world government and a antichrist leader. And so this is stuff that, a lot of pastors aren't talking about, the media is not talking about, but the situation is such that it's more prevalent now than ever. And if you are a reader and you look at history, there's always been this progression towards a global system, and there hasn't been one since King Nebuchadnezzar in the Old Testament. So Wally was inspired to write this book, The Mystery, which kind of gives perspective to what happened before Genesis, right? What prompted God to create man? Because a lot of people blame God for the mess that we're in, but in reality, he had a plan from the beginning that we have. A lot of people are interested in detecting and finding out, like, okay, Lord, why did you create us? And so this book, The Mystery, kind of helps answer those questions. And so we're in the process of promoting this book more, making it more prevalent. So I'll be working on booking him on some podcasts, and he's already on a TV show called GOC Network. But he's 72 now, and he's been trained as a journalist. I mean, true hardcore, no fluff journalist. So his perspective is really unique, and his methods are unique, but he's well researched. And of course, as I've gotten to know him the last 15 years, I've had different assignments, and we've had a little bit of pushback because I'm a frontline guy and he's more of a mainstream, pastor like. And then of course, as I'm positioned as a watchman and as a marketing influencer, I was like, how can we disrupt some of these narratives so that people can be prepared for the mayhem and react and adjust and overcome, right? So there's been this ebb and flow with him, and as he's helped me to translate, the Bible and scriptures to our time, understanding that these days were to come, and at some point, there's nothing you're going to be able to do about it, right? Otherwise, the penalty will be, you're going against the one world government, right? So anyway, not conspiracy. And that's what we talked about in this episode that I'm going to share with you. I'm not going to share the whole episode, but I wanted to show you how we take this content and we edit it and produce it. So this is a landing page resource that I have called Now Site, and it allows me to create landing pages. and then be able to put the content and images, a lead magnet where we can capture emails, phone numbers, and then feature links to the where you can buy certain stuff, the books, etc., promotional videos, and more. So this is Wally Wood, just for reference. I had an opportunity to interview him yesterday. We were at a Hyatt Regency that used to be the Omni here in Houston, where it's a little bit more quiet because we did test a first interview, and I've been able to get him on radio shows in the past as well, and so there's a whole bunch of content out there. If you go on YouTube and type in the Revelation File or Wally Wood Ministries, you can catch up on some of the segments. And again, what he made his mission to do was to document all the different advancing technologies. In fact, he wrote a book called Cashless Society, I think back in the 70s, way before the internet, way before credit cards, although there were some articles that were talking about credit cards in Japan back then, but it wasn't mainstream, right? So a lot of what he has covered is now more mainstream, like artificial intelligence, avatars, RFID chips, the Internet of Things, robots. Of course, Nikolai Tesla also talked about some of this stuff as well. So Wally has done a great job of not only documenting these technologies, but also what the globalist world leaders have been putting into place going back generations, right? So I'm going to close this one. I'm going to close this one. And then, so what I wound up doing is I did an interview with him, and this is my software that I use for video and audio editing. And what I like about this platform is it's not that expensive. In fact, I'll talk about some of the gadgets I use to record it and all. And it allows me to do audio and video, and it's subscription based. I think I paid by the year. I forget how much it is, but let's say it's under $40 with some upgrades. So I got this upgrade package that allows for good lower thirds and graphics, and also access to stock video, stock photos with Pixabay and other partners. And so for this particular edit, this software is called Filmora, Filmora. Wondershare is the parent company, and so they continue to invest and upgrade the product on the subscription. So I'll get an upgrade. I think this is Filmora 13.1 or something like that. So they always fix bugs, and again, it makes it for easy edit. And I've had to learn to do this type of stuff because a lot of times when I'm picking up a camera, and I've worked with the media and all, then you're at the mercy of the photographer, you're at the mercy of the videographer or the recording resource, studio or equipment, right? And so I've had to learn how to do some of this stuff for the purposes, that I have for my brand or my network or the people that I'm serving, right? And so with Wally, his mission and his voice is critical for our times, in my opinion, given his legacy, his history, and the people that he's met. And back in the 70s and 80s, he was a known figure, and still known today. And also preparing to be known. And so there's things that he talks about that no one's talking about. And it's not conspiracy if it's documented. And since he's a journalist, he's like, he doesn't operate in those sectors. He operates on the evidence. And so here is a format that I created called the Revelation Files News Updates. And so I've created a playlist for him, and I'll go more into the playlist here in a second. But let me go ahead and import the audio that I took of him yesterday. And the interview was a little over an hour, but I think it was worth the listening to. Create a folder called the Revelation File News Briefs. And so as we're putting these together, now we're in year 24. And so I'm looking for this one. I'm calling the mystery. I actually labeled the episode incorrect, but that's okay. So here is I just imported the interview. I'm going to take away the old video, the old audio. So the format's already done for me. So what I've done is created the format, and I wanted it to have a cool intro, like a news feel to it. I may come up with something different for coffee. I'm calling it Coffee with Wally. Interestingly, Wally has enjoyed coffee. He just recently started drinking coffee because his wife likes it. And so since I had this format, let's go ahead and save time and create it. So I wanted to have the intro have like a news feel to it. So I'll go ahead and play that real quick, and then the edit. All right, good morning. My name. All right, so that intro had a little bit of radio chatter, and then like a sudden news bump. Radio chatter. So this software basically has this sound effects. I'm going to clip that piece off. The little silent drip there. So if you go up to stock media audio, on the audio, there's sound effects, there's music that you can select for your intros. And so what I picked up was a radio chatter and then a news alert. So you can actually search for those and pull those in on the timeline. So here you have video, audio, and you can increase your layers. So let's say here, add a video track. So if I had a video, I could add a video, and this would be in the background. So I'll go to the end of the, I'll go to the end of the, up here is a little toggle switch that lets you shrink down the timeline. And since it's an hour long, you're going to have to adjust, right, to see where your edits are going to be. So here I am at the end of this audio. I'm going to clip that for now because I already know it's dead space. And then I click on the actual audio just to make sure I might clip anything else behind it. So I can remove that part. And then I have the exit.
Amen. Revelation 13, it's here. Check it out.
The most high-tech chapter in the entire Bible is Revelation 13.
Yeah. So marketing of artificial intelligence, robots, avatars, RFID chips, Internet of Things, all that stuff is more prevalent today than it's ever been.
Amen.
Yeah, so
Amen.
Thank you so much for listening.
Amen.
Had a little robot sound at the end there. So one of the things, this one I'm going to go ahead and save so I don't lose it. That's another thing about these softwares is you want to continue to do a save, right? And so what I want to do now is, this is just a simple edit. I want to go to the equalizer here. So if I click on the image, there's an equalizer. I can help to balance out the sound of the interview. So let's say here, let's do a quick listen.
The majesty of our God. That's what every believer should come.
So that's soft. Let's just try a different one. Let's do low bass.
Come to as we enter into the much prophesied dark.
Sounds a little muffled, right? So let's do a classic.
Days of the end times.
Now for my audio files, you can actually go to the settings here and you can adjust the equalizer based on your best practices for voice. So this is an area I probably need to do more study in. So I just use a lot of those generics. Let's do techno just for balance.
Isolate yourself. Set aside some time, not just to read the word.
So you see how it sounds a little different. Let's see acoustic.
To put the Bible aside and get one-on-one with your God. Because you're going to need him. And brother, you've walked with me years.
I like that. So now this audio is done. As far as the editing concerned, the sound volumes can go up or down. But I think we had good sound there. So I'm going to resave again. And now I want to export the file. So it's been edited. It's a quick edit. Keep in mind, people charge a lot of money to do this kind of stuff, right? Because it is kind of technical, but you can streamline the process. I'm going to select an MP3 since that's what we're saving it to. And then, of course, the updates that the folder that I'm using, and check my folder. So I want to go back to the Revelation file folder. And that's another thing. If you put it in the wrong folder, you got to find it. So you want to make sure you're putting it in the right folder. That's the folder for the Revelation Files news briefs. And then this is Coffee with Wally. So he started drinking coffee because he realized his wife was drinking coffee and he wanted to spend more time with her. So it's episode 1, year 24. And that's a good way to archive your content. So this is the new year. So next episode will be episode 2, year 24. And so that way you have a way of quickly identifying, when was the last episode and archiving them as such and finding them as such. So these audio files render fast. Now videos take a while. So an hour video will probably take about 20 to 30 minutes to render. And that's what it's called. And when it renders, it's converting to the platform or the utility, like if it's MP3 or if it's a MP4, which is video, AVI, which is video, or other format, right? And so this software gives you the ability to do that. And of course, there's a lot more functionality on the video stuff. But for now, I mean, if you want to study this, you can go to YouTube and look up Filmora, and there's all kinds of training tools there. And so one of the advices that I've had from the training is to create your own channel, right? Personal branding. Everyone's an expert at something. And so there's maybe something that you can start and create that's your thing. And it doesn't have to necessarily be long form. So it could be short, 1 to 2, 3 minute videos, audios, or it could be 1 hour features. Depends on the audiences that you're reaching, right? That people will watch an hour or 2 hour video if it's interesting. For example, I watched an interview with Cat Williams yesterday. It was a 2.5 hour interview, but he rarely does interviews. So it was really good to catch up with his focus and learning so much about him. I didn't realize he was an avid reader. He studied the comedian craft. He studied all the greats, and that's why he's built such a successful brand. Continued to invest in himself and invest in his training and learn some practical things and avoid the pitfalls that others have fallen into. So I'm going to pick up that interview. I think I got to listen to about an hour of it yesterday. But for me, it's all part of my research, right? My studies. And so I was like, hey, learn from the greats, And so this video is almost done. And once it's done, we're gonna load it live. We're gonna be able to show you how to turn this on and start to leave, I call it a value chain, right, of content. And so the reason why we did this interview was just to kind of show people where we're at in the continuum of time, if you will, with the advances in technologies and the movement towards one world government. Not conspiracy, because now it's known. There's books been written about it, and the archives are there. And we're seeing the ramifications of these decisions. A lot of times these crises are manufactured to get people to comply, or they're in fear, so they're going to look for solutions. And that's kind of, again, what man's search for himself documented. People, when they're totalitarians, come into power because the people are afraid. And so here at SoundCloud is where I distribute my audios, and there's other platforms as well. So you can actually do research on where to load your audios, but I've been using SoundCloud for years. And what I usually say is, there's over 230 social media for business and other applications. So you may look at a group of audio distribution, because content is content is content. So in essence, with a team, you can take these audios and dissect them and release them in episodes. And that's one of the things that Wally and I had talked about. Do we release this in episodes because it's an hour long, or we release it in its whole? Well, for now, I want to go ahead and release it in its whole. And then I created a playlist because we're going to be doing more of these with him. And he'll be doing more reports, like 3-minute reports of things in the news that we need to pay attention to as far as technological advancements and what that means today and for our lives, right? So the Revelation File News Updates is a playlist that I created. And so this link up here allows me to share, and then people can have access to all these little these audios that we've already done. So this last year we had the first episode, EP1, going to episode 3. So now we're doing the new year, and I want to upload. I want to show you a picture. So when I upload this, I need to have a good little graphic to add to the audio. So I went to Pixabay, .com, which is a free resource. Okay, I'm going to donate to this guy because I want to be respectful. And so these are free, royalty free, but I figured, you know what, let me help these people since they made my life easier. I'll make their life a little easier. And I would go donate. About $3, $5, whatever you think the photos were. If I had to hire a photographer or designer to get this photo, it might cost me, $50 or $1,000. You never know. Photography, it's such a specialized skill. But this person I've never met before, but you know what? I appreciate his efforts. So $3 is okay. I'll make sure it's not 300, but $3 is okay. And then of course I don't feel bad about using this photo, but when I found the photo, I wanted to have this futuristic conspiracy looking theme to it with a little bit of UFOs, since that's kind of in the talk. I said, oh, this is a perfect photo. So I went to search on Pixabay and I just typed in conspiracy, and then I had a bunch of images I could look at. In fact, now that I saved that one, I would type conspiracy. And also Pixabay has videos. And so the challenge for content creation is finding good photos, but now there's some cool AI tools that allow you to create your own photos. I think Chat GPT now has Dolly. And so the skill set required there is how to ask it for the photo you want, and AI will go out and create it for you. And so the photo that I'm using for Wally's was actually, and I'll let him know this, was actually an AI rendered photo that I found on my search. And so one picture I wanted to use was this one. This one was kind of cool, kind of eerie, of the Illuminati and all that. This one as well. But this one kind of grabbed my attention. I think it was this one or that one. I forget. But anyway, yeah, it was this one right here. I should maybe use that one. That one was a good one too. So again, royalty-free photos. Oh, I like that one. I'll go ahead and save that one for future. You can click your resolution style. So this can actually be used in magazines and big media. So you have the different sizes that you want to use. So the word conspiracy in the interview that we had with Wally, there was a book called None Dare Call It Conspiracy, which I do talk about, and that's what I call a click run word. If you're telling the truth, it's not conspiracy if it's true, right? So, but click run is, oh, that's conspiracy. Then people shut down and go to a place where they poo-poo the research, when in reality it's like, okay, you need to pay attention to this because it's not conspiracy, it's actually happening. I don't know if anybody's tuned in here. Yeah, there's no one. All right, so going back here, so we're going to upload my audio. We're going to choose the audio, which we saved in the Revelation file. These are my folders here. I have little projects saved. The Revelation file, use updates. Then I rendered it out to episode 24, Coffee with Wally. That's what we're calling it. So that's going to be the brand for 2024. And I'll add in the future, I'll add some background noise for a cafe. We tried this at a coffee shop. There was just too much background noise. So with sound effects, I can add the coffee, dishes clinging here and there, make it a feel for that. And then we're going to find the picture. In fact, I'm going to use this picture. This one was more conducive to the image. So I'm going to give it a title so that way people will appreciate it, or at least get their attention. And then we're going to talk, let's see, technology, right? Since that's his focus. And we're going to say conspiracy. Interestingly, on Wikipedia, he looked at his wiki and it poo-pooed that this was conspiracy and all that. But he challenge that, because the articles that he references are from the Economic Forum, UN Parliament, Club of Rome. These are all people that he had met, and also the documents that were sent to him. Technology, one world government, society, AI, robots, future. And you've got a body of study now. Image, I'm going to give reference to the image. Pete Limforth is his name. So thank you, Pete. You're the man. And it's Pixabay. So that's really a best practice for marketers, is give credit, to people's work, and don't copy their work. We just saw what happened to the Harvard president, plagiarism. And I'm not going to put too much of a description here for now. I'm referencing the landing page so that we can get some traffic there for the book. We're going to do a global press release on the book to reintroduce it. So it's a public post. I'm going to save it since it's already kind of rendered online now. This will give me my link. I can go to the audio. We'll listen to the intro, just a little bit of the interview, but I'll put this in the comments. And then what I want to do is add this to the playlist. I'm going to add this to the Revelation File playlist. So now that when you go to that link that I showed you earlier, this will be archived in the playlist. So it'll loop, right? And so in essence, I can create my own radio station, right? I can continue to add content. And if someone's listening to the background or they're interested in the topic, and his reports are really good research. If you're in technology and you're in marketing and business, then you want to listen to these. So let me go ahead and play the first part of like 5 minutes of the interview. So now this is on the page, right? It's got its own link, which I can now share. I'll go to copy. Let's say I go to Facebook, and then I'll share it. And it's live. Now my friend Crystal gets after me. She says, you should remove this part so that you don't get punished on the algorithms. My interview, Wallace Wood. And he was so flexible to do this. And he went along with it, right? So I've been wanting to do this interview format with him for a while, and I'll share it with my my group in my website. And so, of course, reading history, that's part of the interview. We go through a little bit of my research on the history side, especially like with Napoleon. Here, the movie just came out. He really was battling the one world globalist leaders back then, but there was no internet. He self-financed his own skirmishes and wars and pushing back on the banking system. And that's what led to the Louisiana Purchase. I think he sold it for $3 million. And he was like, oh, these Americans are buying this swamp for $3 million, but that helped him to fund his military. And at the end of it, I think he blew through 3 million lives, those men that fought with him, for him. And, but, the people just wanted, he said the French just wanted an extra spoonful of sugar in their coffee. They didn't want freedom and liberty. And so, but he got overwhelmed basically and was banished, never to rule again. And so these are just the ebbs and flows of war and history, right? So let's go ahead and play this interview real quick.
All right, good morning. My name is Andy Valdez, here on location with my friend and client and fellow researcher in the end times, Mr. Wally Wood, here at Hyatt Regency here in Houston, Texas. Hey, Wally, how you doing?
Hello there, Andy.
Well,
Doing well.
You and I have been friends for a while, and I've been marketing and observer of the times, and as I've gotten to work with you on your ministry, the Revelation File, and others, you've commented on so much that seems to be so relevant, even back then, even more so today. We're talking about technology in Revelation 13 and how it lines up with the Bible. But we don't have a script for what we're going to talk about today, but definitely wanted to kind of catch up with you and get some of your thoughts about the times we're living.
Well, I guess we can begin with the fact that I've got 5 websites. In my years of research as a research journalist in the trends and issues of the day, I've come to the point that 5 websites pretty much round out the overall global theme of globalization and what that means. And so I invite your listening audience to visit these websites, WallywoodMinistries.com, TheRevelationFile.com, OurTransparentWorld.com, DiginomicsCentral.com, and WallywoodTechNews.com. Now, right off the bat, excuse me, this has nothing to do with ego or the pursuit of fame, but in answering the call and following the march of what's in my DNA, having to do with the uncovering of world events as it fulfills end-time Bible prophecy to the second coming of Christ. And this goes beyond religion. It has everything to do with everything that the prophets of Scripture declared would exist in the last days, that would become the news of the day. So you can say that the ancient prophecies of Scripture would become eventually the headlines of that day. And this is where I've been focused since the 60s and early 70s, is the unveiling of the unfolding of fulfilled end-time Bible prophecy. And that event of Jesus showing up in the sky, rolling it back like a scroll, as Isaiah predicted, is going to be a real event one day. And he addressed, and the ancient prophets addressed, the events of the nations and the issues and trends of the times that would be fulfilled signs of his coming. So that's where my focus has been. I entered into the world of professional media back in the early 70s, and both newspaper, television, radio, marketing, written 4 books. I've got these 5 websites. I'm on 24 social pages. So this has been my DNA focus for a long time, and I can't abandon it. I've tried numerous times to walk away, only to be hit between the eyes with something that I would see and recognize, and I'm back in it again. So that's my basic line story of where I'm coming from. If anyone is truly interested in the events that are coming and what it all means, where is it leading us, why is it happening, then go to these 5 websites, connect with my ministry. I'll tell you what's been going on from a news perspective, more so than from a preacher's perspective.
So here's my take. We've known each other about 15 or 20 years. At first, didn't really know about your ministry. I just knew that you were involved with the NSTA and
Right.
had an interesting background in space and technology, the STEM studies. fast forward to today, it seems like in my circle of influence, a lot of what I call the normies or people that are kind of trying to figure out, like, okay, there's a lot of things that are unsettling and they're kind of eerily, happening all at once. It seems for some. Others that are spiritual understand Revelation 13, but it seems like the technology is catching up with the Bible today. Yeah. Revelation 13, even the archaeological digs that are being discovered today are proving the Bible more and more true. Yes. It never wavered, but right. Man is catching up to what God wrote about. And so as there's talks of going to a global currency, talks of
global politics, world government.
Well, yeah, there you go. The ubiquitous internet of things. You shared with me a resource online with news agencies that are going AI. Yeah. You couldn't even tell that the reporters were, in fact, AI bots generated. Or avatars.
Right.
So all this to say is people are like, okay, what the heck's going on?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not a time to be afraid. Actually, if you are a Christian or you're wise to the times, there's a lot of opportunities, but as well as pitfalls to avoid, things to consider in the mainstream. And of course, I was joking with you before we went live. So a lot of your conspiracy friends are starting to be proven right. But we were talking about the idea of conspiracy, and what was your kind of positioning on that?
Well, I've taken up the matter of.
All right, so that was a good place to break. So you'll have to go to the interview to listen to the rest of it. So we cover a variety of subjects in this interview. And of course, it's, as me knowing Wally for 20 years, we were able to get this into an hour. I guess we call it a concentrated news piece, brief. I'm going to share this with my circle of influence. We've got a contact in radio with a long history of radio and some other radio partners. And so not necessarily just, we want people just to be aware just where we're at and just how to understand and navigate the future, right? Because people are freaked out by AI. They're freaked out by, a global currency and wars and rumors of wars, but there's nothing new under the sun, right? As I mentioned earlier, this author from the book in 1953, they were going through the same issues back then, just the uncertainty. But, the technology wasn't as advanced as it is today. So more today than ever, we have information at our fingertips. News travels the world, instantly, right? So anyway, thank you for watching. I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing my screen here and close. I did have some other things to go over. One was creating playlists. So as I look at 2024, I like to create a music playlist, right? Like theme music, workout music, special interest music. Been listening to like era music here and there, and so these playlists make for a different dynamic, and I share them with my post and online as well, and always looking for new music. Like last year I started new music Thursday, and the spirit of that was, well, it doesn't necessarily have to be on Thursday, it's whenever I want, but the concept was that it had to be new and trending, and you could visualize it in a epic movie, right? Or a movie production like a Quentin Tarantino film or whatever. So it had to have a cool, eclectic vibe to it in any genre, really. And so I just started archiving these new releases, and I have that on YouTube now. In fact, I may add to it, but it's new music Thursday. And then I started one for veterans business, and any song that had a business theme to it that was, relevant, right? So some of it was too hardcore. I had too much bad language or whatever, but I'm not, too averse to that. But at the same token, I wanted to keep it kind of clean, right? And so with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this Friday live. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing. I hope you find these episodes of interest. And of course, I produce it for an audience of one, and that's okay. But you never know. I mean, these things can take on a life of their own, and through consistency of effort, through unwavering faith, to continue to produce, continue to create, continue to originate. And really going to be talking a lot this year about creative vision. Andrew Carnegie, who was I think a steel magnate back in the day, wealthy man, and he really championed the idea of creative visions. And all new big ventures going throughout time were better than imagination. So imagination kind of falls dead if you don't do anything with it. And so creative vision is innate and internal to all of us, right? We were created to create. And so that being said, as engineers, marketers, originators, we have to think through the process of implementation to completion, right? And so in my circle of influence, I call them waymakers, doers, thinkers. We want to launch and create things and monetize them, right? So on the entrepreneurship side, it's like, hey, in my circles, it's like, look, let's scale our business. Let's get to 1 million to 5 million, and then look at selling that business and go do something else, right? And so create your perfect life that you want in the future. And that's what I've done in previous episodes. We talk about dream board, goal setting, et cetera. But it's going to require us to improve. And that's why the 3 a.m. concept makes sense, because, we can pick up 6 months of extra activity, extra efficiency, extra development. And in reality, success may be a 1% difference, in between the have and the have nots, really. And again, that's what Andrew Carnegie was talking about, is the creative vision. He said, unfortunately, in America, in the world, the systems have worked to shut down that creativity, because it's the 1%, 2% that are in the super wealthy class, and they have more freedom and liberty than, the middle class, which is going away. And so the cheese is being moved now. Artificial intelligence is here in every industry, from marketing to law to industry to engineering to software development or whatever. So knowing that, the cheese is going to be moved, right? So why not be the cheese mover? Why not be the one that's involved, so that you're preparing yourself and your family, right, for the changes ahead? And also you're going to be more able to help those that are in need, right? So people are realizing, like, hey, I got to do something, and they may not do anything, and you can't help everybody. And so you can only give them a message, like I'm doing with this platform. Say, look, I'm getting up at 3, or 2:30 now, right? I said, well, why are you doing that? Well, I'm glad you asked. And what I'm finding is I like this lifestyle. I'm saying, wait a minute, I'm up with the late we call night owls, and with the early risers, but also leaving a value chain. It's like, okay, you know what? This is what we're doing. We're documenting it live, right? So we're not some of these others that you've seen where they've made their millions and are doing all that stuff, but we're going to document as we're going. And some of the training, they said, yeah, that's what I did. I just kind of documented what I was doing. And then as they were realizing success and sharing, their know-how, they started to help people. Like Zig Ziglar said, you if you help enough people get what they want, you'll get what you want. So I've got some big dreams. I've got some big goals. I'll share with you my someday statement. But someday, I think one of my pastor friends, Jerry Edmondson, had written. I was looking at my history. Someday doesn't exist, right? So I have to operate as if that day will never happen, even though I'm working towards that day today. So today is the most important day. Yesterday, hopefully I invested in that day to accumulate the thinking and the development for today. So as I close out this Friday, the end of the week, the Sabbath for some, the Sabbath weekend for many, I'm looking forward to spending time with my family. We're going to have lunch with my daughters. They're both in town. My daughter's in from college from A&M this weekend, so we're going to meet up for Chick-fil-A together and make a memory, and live the adventure. And so we're, we don't want to get stressed in these times, and we want to keep a mindset of ebb and flow. I would say, keep healthy, keep happy, despite the challenges that we have, and challenges are going to come, life can't be perfect all the time. So we've got to be prepared to have a good mindset, rain or shine. And today it's raining outside. So, but anyway, I hope you have a great week. Stay tuned. Go to Zero Dark Network to follow with our groups. If you're interested in meeting with us here in Houston, reach out to me. And if you're interested in starting a group in your city, in your town, or starting your own live stream with Zero Dark Network, let us know. Then I can archive and feature you on the website. And again, it's Zero Dark Network. We're up before the devil, and that means that we're getting ahead of everybody, getting ahead of everything. Not everybody getting ahead, but I'm talking about like developing and leading and preparing folks for a different mindset. Especially as we get into the future. So thank you again. Have a great weekend.
My name is Andy Valdez, founder of Marketing Dynamics. The late Peter Drucker, the father of management theory, believed marketing was critical to your business. He said the purpose of a business is to create a customer through marketing and innovation. Strategic marketing equals immediate success. We offer you speed to market without the speeding tickets. Work smarter, harder, faster. Marketing Dynamics, because the market never stays the same. Please visit teammarketingdynamics.com.